What's up, Wargamers? Welcome back to World of Wargaming. I'm Isaiah, and today we're going to dig back into the last war. I've got my big old box of sprues, compliments of the Sprue Dude. If you want to go pick up some, we'll put a link across the bottom of the screen for a little 10% discount. I've looked through these and I've decided I'm not going to stick to a particular nationality since that doesn't really seem to be a thing in the game. So I'm just going to pick the pieces that I like. Starting with this Russian body. Now, this guy has the zigzag rule, which makes him harder to hit, so it made sense to select a running pose. He's also got a helmet. Found one with a nice kind of motion to the flappy bit on the back. He's got a helmet. He gets a free helmet because he's got safety first, which means he always wears a helmet. Now, I am incredibly impatient when it comes to building models, so I always use this stuff, but I don't spray it. I just screw the top off and put a little drop where I need it to be to make that glue set instantly. Other options could be to dab one side of the pieces into a little bit of baking soda. That'll also act as a catalyst and make it cure super fast, but if you're not careful, it can leave you with some grimy bits, which, depending on what you're doing, may be a positive. Now, this fine fellow carries a lance. However, the lance that I have for him does not have a hand attached to it, and I've got an open palm hand, but the hand is turned in the wrong way, so we're just going to give that a quick clip. Make sure we don't lose the piece. That cut off really clean, and then we're just going to glue it down and rotate the hand so that it's turned the way that we need it to be for the task at hand. Oh, and of course I glued it to my fingers. All attached up and ready to run into the trenches. Another arm to point the way, onto a base, and on to the next duder. Next up is going to be our unlucky nightingale. So I'm going to go with this kind of kneeled pose. He's got a lance, and we're going to see if we can figure out some kind of med bag for him. But first, we're going to give him a nice gas mask because they look freaking cool. He also carries a lance. I just didn't have enough money to actually start with very many guns, so we're a little bit slack in that department. We're going to model them as how they're built. I don't foresee myself going back and updating or making new models as they get upgrades, but we're going to model them as they are to begin with. And again, this is another chop, so I chopped off the hand from one arm, found a javelin spear lance that had a hand attached to it, and Bob's your uncle. We got a functioning arm. So we got him with his hand out, giving the signal to hold, with his med kit draped over his arm. I don't know what that bag is actually supposed to be, but I'm going to use it as his med kit. Now, our next friend has phonophobia, which means he has to take a morale test when people use explosive weapons. So I'm going to try to have it like he's kind of maybe covering his ears. Hit him with a little dry fit. So I think, I think this is going to work if I just reposition the hand a little bit. So let's do that. We're going to give it a snip. Make sure we don't lose any of the pieces. Try to get it right at the cuff. And then we're going to clean that up a little bit with a hobby knife. And to ensure that I get the rotation on the hand correctly, we're going to go ahead and drop the model. Luckily, that's another reason I use the catalyst. So we're going to go ahead and get this arm glued on, and then I can have a better shot at positioning the hand correctly. So moving to cover that ear. Now, that was a lot more work than I thought it would be because the arm, I had to snip a little bit off the back side of it in order to get it the angle. So there will be a little gap right there in the shoulder that I'm going to need to fill. And then his pistol in the other hand. He's one of two guns, one of two pistols that I have in the unit. Only two firearms I've got at the moment. Next up is going to be Miss Mud. So this is going to be probably the most chopping that we've done thus far. We're going to start with this body, make it into 2 parts, and then we're going to dig into this box right here a little bit to get these legs, which we're then going to try to attach to that torso. We got a little bit of a tab here that we need to remove without removing our thumb. So easy does it. I know you're not supposed to cut towards yourself, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, you know? So I also had to go in and do some pretty heavy modifications to the torso. I needed to take off some of the bottom of the coat without removing the lantern and the canteen. So just some really, really careful knife work. Used my flush cutters to kind of take off some big chunks and then just very carefully whittled it down. But now she fits together pretty well at that point. Also going to take this female head with the bandana around the face. She's got iron lung, so smoke and gas and stuff aren't really a problem for her, but she doesn't like the way it smells, like it when the particles and stuff get in her mouth. So just a little bandana to help cover her up and prevent that grossness, just like so. She's got kind of a long neck, but that's okay. We're also gonna have to do a little bit of gap filling, I think, back between the torso, but it'll be all right. We took arms from that same gunfighter set because I didn't want her arms to be super, super bulky. I thought it might look odd, so we got her pistol as well as a lantern so that they can see as they're raiding the trenches at nighttime. Last up, we have Tommy the Dying, who is my Lugaroo. So I want to take these legs off at about the knee and these and swap them. And I hope I don't mess that up. So we got those on there, and actually they came together pretty easily. Like not a lot I had to. I had to trim a little bit off the back, off the top of the calf, but for the most part, that went together really smooth. With him attached to a base, now it's time to pick out some arms and put together his weapon hand, because he also has a cavalry lance. We got our Wolfie arm attached to our lance, so now we're going to get it on the body. And then we need our head. So we got the head and the other arm on, but there is, and I forgot to clean that. Oh well, I'll do it in a second. But there is another thing that we needed, because he has Baldric. He always carries a turnip. So we're going to make that turnip. Also, there's a little bit of gap on the back right there that I got to deal with, but that's what we're going to use this for. This is Milliput. You can use green stuff, but it's a lot more expensive than this, especially for how much you get. These 2 big sticks, this big pack was $8. So this is what I prefer, but you do whatever you want. You just mix together equal parts. And I want to say, if you mix a little bit more of the darker one, it'll be a little bit stiffer. If you mix a little bit more of the lighter one, it'll be a little bit more flexible. I think that's right. It's been a while since I used this stuff, but I think that's correct. Once I've gotten what I need, which I'm going to do equal parts, I like to, if I don't open it like an absolute ape, then I like to just fold it over and tape it down. If I do open it like an ape, then I'll take a little corner off a piece of grocery bag, put it over, fold it tight, and then just put a little piece of painter's tape on it. I recommend painter's tape if you're going to do this, because it comes off a lot easier than, say, electrical tape or duct tape or anything like that. And then we need till we're to an even consistency with no streaks or anything like that in it. I'm going to start with this turnip. We're just going to peel off a little piece. That's too much. That should be good. Roll it into a ball. I think that's still too much. Let's take about half of that. Take about half of that. And then we just want to give it a little kind of tip to the bottom. Round it back out some, and then we're going to take that and we're going to set it down and leave it alone for a bit. Now for our gaps, we just want to kind of, that's too much, mush it in there. I have tools for this, but who knows where they are. So I'm going to use my hobby knife. I normally wouldn't put this much for just a little gap, but I want to kind of sculpt this out a little bit, as well as fill it in. And I know this guy's name. I rolled up the name Undying Tommy for this, but the head looks a lot like my German Shepherd. So we're gonna rename it to Miko the Undying, because that's her name. I like to call her Princess Monamiko. Then we're just gonna take our tip of our blade and pull some of that fur texture out. Doesn't have to be perfect or extravagant, just needs to do the job. That'll do. And our minor gaps filled on and mud and our phonophobe friend right there on that shoulder piece. That's just kind of get a little piece, mush it in, smooth it out. Good to go. Now for the rest of the turnip, I've got these lily pad pieces, and I'm gonna just cut a couple of these off to be the leaves for my turnip. So while this is still soft, we're gonna take these leaves and just stick them down in there. And then we'll come back once everything's dry, and we'll put some glue on that. I gotta reshape that just a little bit. And we're gonna set it down and leave it alone. And here we have our finished Lugaroo, lance, and turnip in hand. Next step will be to get them primed and painted, but that'll be probably not another video. I don't really do painting videos because there's way better people to listen to than me on that topic. But we'll get them primed, we'll get them painted, and we'll be ready to play some Last War. There may be some videos for getting the monsters made. It depends on what I got to do that. And that, my friends, is gonna do it. Pretty, I would say, average to medium difficulty of kitbashing. The Lugaroo and the lady took a little bit of working, but all in all, I'd say that came together pretty well and pretty easily. And I'd also like to say thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out while I kitbashed and built up this group for the Last War. And again, huge thank you to the SprueDude.com for sending these models out. Again, check out the link in the description along with the discount code if you'd like to go pick some things up for the Last War or for any number of other things. Dude has got tons of stuff. And thank you so much for stopping by. I love y'all to death, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.